All right, so we are going to do some color coding identification of organelles. We're going to start out coloring the parts of the cells that all cells have. We know there are 4 things that all cells have. Those are cytoplasm, cell membrane, DNA, and ribosomes. I like twistables because I think they last longer, so if you don't have matte pencils already, yeah, they cost a little bit more, but they last for a long time. So there's my advertisement for Crayola twistables, I guess. All right, so we have 3 cell pictures here. Realize these are diagrams, they're drawings. They're not actually what it would look like if you looked under a microscope. It's a drawing. So here is our prokaryotic cell, and it happens to be a bacteria, so prokaryotic, and it's a bacteria. We're not going to color all the things on it, but we're going to color some of them. And then we have an animal cell and we have a plant cell, and those are examples of eukaryotic cells. We could have easily done a fungi or a protista, but we're going to start with the cytoplasm. Now, the cytoplasm, it says to color it white, and so this area right here in the bacteria, the area in here on the animal cell, and here on the plant cell, guess what? It's already white, so you don't have to color anything. All right? And so the next thing that you need to color, dark blue, is the cell membrane. So we're going to do our color code here. The cell membrane is always closest to the cytoplasm, and so therefore it's this inner layer on our bacteria cell that is touching the cytoplasm as we go around this inner layer. Now you notice there are some other layers here that we could color. We're not going to, but you could color the cell wall, which is the next one, or the capsule, which is the outer one. But we're just concerned with the cell membrane because all cells have a cell membrane. And so we're also going to color that on our animal cell, which is just this outer area. Animal cells are often rounder because they don't have a cell wall, and plant cells are often kind of boxy because they do have a cell wall. So when we get to our plant cell, this outer area is the cell wall, but the inner area that is touching that white cytoplasm, or the gel that holds all the organelles, is going to be our cell membrane. Now, the cell membrane is the one that controls what can come in and out of the cell, and we call it semi-permeable. We'll learn that word later. And so we're going to be sure to color in our key where it says cell membrane dark blue, and here cell membrane is dark blue, and so we've got that. And then the next thing that we're going to color on our bacteria, we're going to color, it says light purple, but I'm going to color over it so dark you won't even be able to tell that it said light purple because I want it dark purple. And that's our DNA. And so if we were to take a string and tie it together to form a loop like you used to do when you were in grade school. So if you remember doing this in grade school, you know, you had a piece of yarn and then you put somebody's hand in there. I never could do it. Mine always ended up in a knot. But anyways, it's a loop. And the DNA in a bacteria is in a loop. And then what we see is that loop all kind of crunched together. And so this area right here is the DNA, or the genetic material, the instructions for all of the cell's processes. And it is, I just bragged on them, now they're breaking. It is all in the inside of the prokaryotic cell. It's not in a nucleus. And we do have DNA in our animal cell and our plant cell, but we don't actually see the chromosomes. We don't actually see them. We do have light purple and dark purple, the nucleolus and the nucleus on each of these. And so the nucleolus is just a dense area inside of the nucleus. It's actually part of the nucleus, it's not a separate organelle. Sometimes you don't even identify it, you just say the nucleus because it's the same thing. DNA is going to be located inside of the nucleolus. It's also it's also outside of the nucleolus. So it's just in the nucleus. And so when we're looking for our DNA, it's going to be inside the nucleus. So over here, between nucleus and nucleolus, I'm going to write DNA on the plant and the animal cell. Now, if you'll get a black, we're going to color the ribosomes, which make the proteins on our bacteria cell. They are just these little black dots. They're not inside of a separate membrane, so we call them non-membrane bound organelles. In fact, they're the only organelle that bacteria cell have, are these ribosomes that make the proteins. And on our animal cell and our plant cell, they're also floating around in the cytoplasm, but they are also located on these, it looks kind of like Cheetos, the endoplasmic reticulum. And if the endoplasmic reticulum has ribosomes, we call it rough endoplasmic reticulum. And if they don't have ribosomes, then we call it smooth endoplasmic reticulum. And so ribosomes make proteins. Every cell, prokaryotic or eukaryotic, has ribosomes. They don't all have endoplasmic reticulum, but animal cells and plant cells do. So all eukaryotic cells do. All right, so the other things that are on the bacteria cell, like the tail or the flagella, it's called, the capsule, this outer area, the cell wall, these little spiky things are called pili or pili. We're not going to color those, but they are on there, and eventually when you get to high school biology, you might need to know them, but you don't need to know them for 7th grade. So we'll put that to the side. On to our eukaryotic cells, our animals and plant cells. The next thing that we're going to color is going to be red, and that's going to be the endoplasmic reticulum. And like I said, there are two kinds. There is the rough and the smooth. Now, they're always located next to the nucleus. So if you get confused between the endoplasmic reticulum and the Golgi apparatus or the Golgi body, look for the one that's closest to the nucleus, and you will have found the endoplasmic reticulum. It's kind of a series of tunnels or pathways that things get moved along, and that is how we can recognize it, because it's located next to the nucleus. So endoplasmic reticulum, or abbreviated ER. And the next thing that we're going to color is blue or light blue. The vacuole in the animal cell is right here. And it's kind of deceiving because actually animal cells usually have more than one small vacuole. So I'm going to draw another one right here. It kind of looks like a candy corn. So they could have more than two, but I'm going to draw two just so you know they have more than one. And then in the plant cell, you'll notice the vacuole is rather large, but there is only one. And so that's a difference between plants and animal cells. Plant cells have one large vacuole, and animal cells have more than one, but small vacuole. And then we're going to look at the Golgi body. Sometimes you'll hear it called a Golgi apparatus or a Golgi complex. It looks like little pancakes that are folded in half to me. This is like the Amazon or the UPS. It packages up things and ships them out or ships them to different areas. It is in both the plant and the animal cell. And so we're going to color that orange. It's usually not located exactly by the nucleus, and so that's how you can tell it apart from the endoplasmic reticulum. The next thing that we're going to color, you're going to need a pink. So the mitochondria, we're going to color with a highlighter. They usually have, they're kind of a cigar shaped, and they usually have some sort of a zigzag design. This is if they were cut open. This is if you just saw the whole thing closed. And we have them in the plant cells also. Their job is to break down glucose into energy that the cell can use. And so even though plants make their own glucose, they have to have mitochondria performing cellular respiration so that they can use that glucose. Now we have lysosomes in the animal cell. They're just a small kind of digestive enzyme little organelle that breaks down things. This picture actually shows them on the plant cell too, but we are going to, when we go to cut this out, we're just going to ignore that and pretend they're not there. Not all plant cells have those. In fact, they have something that does that function through the vacuole. So the next thing we're going to look at with a dark green is something that plant cells have but animal cells do not, and that is the cell wall, which is the rigid outer layer that makes plant cells sort of boxy-like. And you're going to go around the cell membrane to color that in. And then the other thing that plant cells have that animal cells do not is chloroplast, which allow it to do photosynthesis. And you'll notice they're kind of the same shape as the mitochondria, but they have these little circles in them, look like stacks of coins. Those actually are chlorophyll pigment. That's what makes them green. And so we have all of the organelles on our eukaryotic cells. We're going to cut this out, and then we're going to glue it to page 15 as a flap. See how that's a flap? On page 15, eukaryotic organelles. On page 14, you're going to glue your bacteria as a flap, or you can glue the inside and have it flap the other way. Prokaryotic organelles. And then we had some notes that we took on page 12 about organelles that all eukaryotic cells have. We're not quite finished with that. We'll continue with that tomorrow.